All right, let's get started. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for taking time to listen to our pitch. This is Eagle Venture Fund, and we're very grateful to have you guys all here together. Our tagline is backing the bold, forging human flourishing, and you'll hear me talk about human flourishing over and over again, because this is what we're trying to do. There are many companies that talks about ESG. In fact, I don't think you can walk around any multinational company and not talk about ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Our company, our venture fund, is focused specifically on the social impact part. The governance is assumed that you've got good governance, and the environmental is not the area we're currently focusing on. So these are these three individuals. The one on the right side is myself, of course. Matt and Hogan, they started a company called LiveFull. They've got a really proprietary mosquito repellent that is safer and much more effective than anything out there. And the target market is what we call Global South, which is, Africa, India, even my country, Indonesia. So that's an example of the area that we're focusing on. So let me just go and jump right into it. This is just a disclaimer, which basically says two things. We don't know the future, and it is risky. You may lose money, but we've got a full team that's dedicated to making sure that we'll be as responsible and good stewards of your money, because our money's in this as well. There's two sides to what social impact investing is all about. On the right side is a traditional way: make money and donate. So this is what traditional companies do. I make money, and once I make money, I will donate. Nothing wrong with it. We need that. We love that. Eagle Venture Fund has a different narrative. We want to do good while making money. We're looking for companies, and we invest in companies that are doing good and making money at the same time. As a typical VC, it's between 20 to 30% annualized returns, and native impact is really what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to talk about this in a subsequent slide. What's the difference between native impact and bolt-on impact? The two types of impact that we tend to see out there. So, what kind of social areas do we focus on? We invest in technology that fights human trafficking, enables economic empowerment, facilitates education opportunities, and we look at companies that does transformative healthcare, making healthcare more accessible to a wider range of population groups, especially disadvantaged population groups. We invest in tech startups. Typically, it's a B2B SaaS model. We do early stage, and what that means is sometimes we cut a check for $50,000 all the way up to $2 million. Okay. Let me just continue this. A quick summary slide. 7 years in the making. We've got 3 funds in the US already. It's closed because in the United States, the minute you get 100 investors, the fund is closed. We currently have 3 active funds: Eagle Venture Fund 4, the Freedom Fund, which is specifically a fund dedicated to human trafficking technologies, and the Global Impact Fund. AMC stands for Actively Managed Certificate, and this fund is based out of our Zurich office. We have deployed about $50 million, 36 investments. And if you take a look at the right side, we have 2 exits already: Capital Works and Eversource. So we're quite excited. We believe it's a good indicator of what we're able to do, but we're excited about moving forward and really looking at the Asian market as well. So we have office in Dallas, Zurich, and now in Singapore, where we've got the MAS license through a VCC structure. The fund's performance has done reasonably well. Again, we've got a couple exits from our first fund. And if you take a look at the far bottom right, what we're telling is we've already raised money in Asia. We also have started to deploy in Asia. In fact, the first deployment will be Eagle Venture Asia Fund, which is going to invest in Eagle Venture Lab Asia, which is a venture studio. By the way, we've deployed to 36 companies. If you do the math on the top, 12 companies, 16 companies, and 17 companies, that's 40 plus, it's 49 companies or so. what we're trying to say is actually sometimes we invest in the first fund. The first fund would invest in a company, and we continue to subsequently invest further in the same companies. Every month, we get around 400 to 500 opportunities that goes across our desk. How do we figure this out, and how do we decide which ones to invest in? 2 out of our 5, actually 3 out of our 5 general partners, myself included, Wade and Ray, were strategy consultants with McKinsey. I myself still runs a management consulting and training company in 12 countries. So we have a very structured process. We think we've been doing a very decent job to make sure that we are finding the best opportunities to invest in. And what I'd like to impress upon you is the first thing we look at is what's the impact, and does it fit within our areas of interest and our areas of focus, all the way to looking at the leadership team. And then we also look at, of course, all the technical valuations and go-to-market strategies. Out of 500, we typically end up with 1 that we invest in. This is just a summary slide of our GPs. The GPs here, every one of them are entrepreneurs. We've put our own money into this business. I've put my own money into this business. In fact, I started as an LP of a couple of years ago. I just loved what they did, the methodologies, and when they're looking to expand to Asia, I said, sure, sign me up for it. A little bit about myself. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 30 years. I operate several tech companies myself and have invested in it, co-founded. I've exited my own tech company. I've also continued to operate traditional businesses like medical call centers, consumer healthcare companies, and also management and leadership training companies in 12 countries. I'm trained as a pastor, so I still am very active on the weekends with my church, where I serve as a priest warden at an Anglican church. We got a full team here. It's a big group. We got a full team. We're quite excited. We have 2, 3 people. Tim Tebow is our general partner on our Freedom Fund. He's a very well-known football player, professional football player. Grew up in the Philippines, actually. So that's that. We've got, just give me a second. Here's another person that is maybe of interest. Joe actually specifically journeys with the CEOs in our portfolio companies, making sure that they're getting coaching, they're getting mentoring, and really, yeah, going alongside that journey with them. The GPs, of course, serve as board members in the companies that we invest in. Mason Tan is a very well-established Singaporean entrepreneur who is the founder of something called the Garden Impact Fund. Exactly the same thing as what Eagle Venture is, but it's a private equity fund. So Winston is somebody that I've known and worked with for almost 10 years during his time at HSBC. His last corporate role is in Julius Baer as one of the directors there. So yeah, we've got a strong team and we're looking forward to working together with you. This is actually just a little bit more about the Global Impact Fund. Our Singapore fund feeds into this Global Impact Fund, so it's worth to talk a little bit more about this. We currently have about $10 million AUM. I invested August 30th. And when I invested in it, the per certificate shares is 1,589. It's gone up quite a bit. And what this fund is actually, there is liquidity in this fund, or semi-liquidity. So this fund is actually, no, there's no liquidity. The Singapore VCC is a closed fund. It's a typical 7-year fund. And Providentia is actually our partner there. So let's take a note on that. Okay. I just want to show that there's growth here in the fund.
Okay.
targeting 20 million raise. Minimum is 200,000 because it's designed for accredited investors based on the definitions of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, which is, I think you have to have liquid assets of 2 million or 3 million and annual salaries of about 300,000. This is an example of the portfolio companies that we've invested in throughout the whole series of Fund 1 all the way to the AMC Global Impact Fund. We mentioned about human flourishing and native impact, and it's worth to just spend a minute to talk about this. This is a great company. In fact, in Funan Center in Singapore, I've just visited the store. Tom's has a great aspirational goal. For every shoes that you buy, I will go and give one shoes away for free. So imagine this. They actually, the year that they sold 1 million shoes, they take another 1 million shoes and then they actually provide it to a country which, or population group which is disadvantaged. Let's say a country in Africa. It's great, and we need that kind of philanthropy. There is a couple challenges with that. The first challenge is, what happens to the local economy when you dump 1 million shoes? What happens to the local shoe industry? You kind of kill it. The second thing about this is, when you give people free stuff, what are we training them? We're training them to be dependent. And the third challenge that we foresee is, if a new CFO comes in and says, hey, this is costing us money, then it may work out to be only when we sell 2 shoes, we give 1 shoes for free, or eventually giving free shoes becomes a cost to their business model. What we like to see in our business actually is native impact, which basically means there's no compromise between doing good and creating impact. When we sell more of these lessons, which is teaching English using immersive technology, the more the people actually use this, the more educated they become, and the more fluency they have in English, the better the economic opportunities are there. And this company, VeroSkills, specifically targets refugees. And refugees, which is one of the world's biggest problems at the moment, oftentimes very skilled laborers and skilled professionals in their home country, if they're forced from whatever circumstances, economic, weather, crisis circumstances, to migrate and become a refugee, they may not even have opportunities to go back to their old career, old crafts. But if they learn English, there's an immediate impact on their opportunities. So we like to see native impact in everything we do. In fact, that's one of the criteria when we look at evaluating companies. This is a slide about the kind of companies we've invested in. I actually have a couple slides that deep dive into this. So let's take a look about what we mean by native impact, and I'll just give you a couple selections of portfolio companies. The first thing we want to talk about is human trafficking. You'll see over here on this slide, a lot of pretty sad stuff is happening. Meta, Facebook, they're getting sued because people are using this platform, not themselves, not Mark Zuckerberg himself, but clearly the people are using Facebook as a way to advertise for child exploitation, sex trafficking. Red Roof Inn paid up to $30 million because they were hosting, illegal activities in their hotels. JP Morgan, this is Jeffrey Epstein's lawsuit. They process payments for Jeffrey Epstein's activities, and they settle out of court for $290 million. So basically, if you are any part of the value chain of commerce that is got risk exposure to human trafficking, sex trafficking, you could be sued. Okay, this is an important social issue, but how do you make money? Let's take a look at one of the companies that we've invested in. This company is called Darkwatch. Darkwatch, actually,
Oh, you muted yourself.
okay, Darkwatch scrapes the internet and goes and scrapes the dark web. Guess what? This is Singapore last month, actually 2 months ago. There's over 800 sites. And by the way, personally, some of the sites that they've noted, I was a bit skeptical, so I checked it out. Definitely illegal activities. And all these red dots are where there's high intensity of illegal activities. And if you look at those locations, a lot of these are what we call 5-star hotels, 4-star hotels. We believe, and we already have Darkwatch selling to banks, and they're now having conversations with hotels to talk about, just like Norton Utilities, antivirus. Well, we want to make sure that this becomes a risk management tool. And Darkwatch is targeting to sell their services to banks, payment gateways, and even hotels. You'll recognize that the picture on the left side is a picture of Mona Lisa, because your brain, your eyes functions to understand pattern recognition. But for most AI tools, they will not be able to recognize that, especially if it's slanted, if it's not in the right angle. The company we've invested in is called Deja Vu. They have a very amazing technology that does pattern recognition. The question is, how do you use this to combat human trafficking? Check this out. Now, this is a very sad story that became a very triumphant, very successful story. These two girls, they're teenagers, they were kidnapped. The police found their photos a couple days after they were kidnapped being advertised on the internet. I mean, you think about it, how do people advertise for sex? They put it on the web. The police didn't know where they were, these two girls. They brought the photos to Deja Vu, the company that we've invested in. Within less than 30 minutes, Deja Vu was able to tell exactly where these girls are, because they were able to check the sofas and the curtain patterns. And they were able to scrape the internet to Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb websites, where hotels frequently advertise with images of their rooms, correct? In 3 hours, the police found these girls and they were saved. This is not bolt-on impact. This is direct impact, native impact. The more police, and the market for this is obviously a police force. We're having conversations now with the hotel chains like Hilton and the Marriott groups, where they're now starting to want to fingerprint their rooms because they want to be responsible. They don't want to be involved in human trafficking activities. Immerse is a company that does immersive language education. They're currently partnered with Meta. One of the target areas that they're working with is they are helping refugees improve their livelihood opportunities by learning to speak English in a very rapid pace. In fact, the rapid pace over 400% of effective learning. Banking is the company I started.
Hola, bienvenido al paraíso. Hey, come in. Make yourself at home. Bonjour.
Give me a second.
Welcome to Immerse, a social virtual reality language platform you can access.
Sorry, that was a video. So there's a video there. So Banking On is actually a company I started. The credit unions, there's about 8,000 credit unions and community banks. They can't compete against the Wells Fargos and the Bank of Americas of the world. This is a B2B model. Banking On has developed a teenage banking app that helps engage, educate, and retain teenagers on banking. After COVID, people don't really have cash transactions anymore, especially in the United States. So Banking On is a technology company that sells this technology, Boku, to credit unions and community banks to allow the credit union community banks to be responsible to educate teenagers of basic concepts such as interest rates, credit card, debit card, the differences, keeping a bank account secured, and also this as a way to not just acquire but to retain the next generation of customers for them. You see, it's a huge opportunity, and this talks about economic empowerment as well as education. Evidence City is a company that specializes in supply chain transparency. If you remember, I think H&M and Nike a couple of years ago, there was a lot of boycott because people said they're using child labor or slave labor for the cotton from China. Apple has the same issues. And what Evidence City does is it does some data mining and research to allow investigation on ethical business practices. So that's that. So these are all examples of case studies that we would like to share with you. We don't have to go through this. I'll skip this one, but this is actually a healthcare company that helps the incarcerated people who's in jail, who's leaving jail, that don't have healthcare, how to educate them, how to get them ready to integrate back to society. This is a superstar case study. We invested $400K in this company, and in 16 months, we exited with 1.7 million. Wade, one of our general partners, created this company called Capital Works. And what Capital Works did is basically help SME companies with their financial model, with their valuation models. And we sold this company to a small bank called JP Morgan, because JP Morgan just felt that with this technology, they are able to serve the SME clients much better. We have a VCC structure. We have a detailed money flow process from the LP's interest to subscribing to it. The money goes into a DBS bank account, which is a Singapore bank. And then eventually it gets transferred to a feeder fund, which is the Eagle Global Impact Fund. We provide quarterly updates to our investors, and we have webinars to do that. And we'd love for you to even just take a look at it. If you need, we have this webinar saved and recorded. If you want to take a look at it, we'd be happy to send you the link. Yeah, the Eagle Venture Fund feeds into the Eagle Global Impact Fund, and then we co-invest with our US Eagle Venture 4 and Freedom Funds. That's it for right now. Thank you. Questions? What questions would investors ask so we can be well prepared?
After you invest to the portfolio companies, how do you track the impact that they make? And if let's say the business model change, will you, and it doesn't go into the impact, will you divest?
Well, look, so far, first of all, whenever we invest in a company, we typically require a board seat. So the 5 GPs, they sit on the boards, and we try to be as strategic as possible with our advice. We get updates from them, and we enter these updates into our dashboard, internal dashboard. The impact is typically the first question we ask. What's the impact? How do you measure it? And then the third question is, what kind of revenues what's the burn rate, what kind of profitability. So we really try not to compromise on that. So far, the impact is not an issue because the business model fundamentally is focused on solving that problem. So we haven't so far had any issues about people changing their business model completely. But if that happens, we'll be the first to know. Good question.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for the presentation. So VC can be risky. What is the performance of failures that Eagle Venture has invested into?
36 companies, 2 exits. 1 we have written off, but that company we invested $50,000. Basically, the people that the founder that started a company, and that was before my time. She was extremely articulate, super passionate, but didn't understand something that business needed, which is called sales process. Yeah, she just thought that being passionate and being a good speaker can drive sales, but actually, and which is one of the reasons why we set up something called Eagle University. We have Eagle University, and every 2 months, sometimes even every month, we have webinars and sessions where we invite all the portfolio companies, their CEOs and their leadership team to come and join. It's the community where we talk about, well, this past 2 weeks ago, we talked about sales strategy, sales process. In July, we spoke about how do you actually exit your company properly? What are the considerations when you're negotiating it, to sell your company? What are the top 20 parameters to consider? So Eagle University supports the entrepreneurs in that journey. Hopefully that answers your question. Good question.
So I have a question. So currently in the economics of the world, there's a lot of uncertainty regarding recession and whether or not there's be a soft landing of the economy. So why should I invest now? Why should I invest now when there's lots of risk and uncertainty? Why should I invest later on when things are more certain?
You are absolutely correct. The world is in a bit of a nutcase season. You got two wars that's still attracting global attention. One is 2-year-old in the making, almost 2.5 years. The other one is a year old, unfortunately. The world is very unpredictable. The capital markets is risky. Venture capital is also risky. But here's one thing I do know. People that are hungry still need to find food. Refugees are actually increasing. I hate to say this because it sounds very sadistic, but the more wars there are, the more refugees there are. The more refugees there are, the more needs there are. And if our companies are serving that, our market's growing. It's a terrible thing to do, but it's growing. And so this problem is not going away. And I believe that there is a role, and there's a critical role for nonprofit organizations to serve those disadvantaged families, from refugees to people that don't have the right education or healthcare, or sex trafficking. Those being trafficked needs to be healed. But the nonprofit organization, based on all research, is scratching the surface. The best and the fast and the highest impact ways to serve those communities through business. And we think that that's a very powerful mindset shift. We believe business should be for the purpose of solving problems. And as they solve problems, they should make money. And somehow I think capitalism over the years have kind of lost that narrative. I sound sometimes when I'm talking even to my wife, to my shareholders, I sound like a social activist. I should be. I'm a capitalist and a social activist at the same time. And I'm really proud to say that. It's because we should be solving the world's problems and making money at it. Why not? Right? Great question, Adrian. Dean, Saurabh.
One question, Carl. So I see like you are shortlisting 500 companies in a month, and there are 5 GPs. There must be some difference in opinions. How do you resolve that within yourself?
So far, And I've participated, okay, I sound like I'm an expert. I've just joined as a GP in the last 6 months. So far in the investment discussions, it's got to be a unanimous vote. Yeah. And there has been cases that we've had long debates, and when we're not able to resolve those debates, you know what we do? We invite the CEO back, and we do a brainstorming and a strategy session with the CEO of the company that we're still uncertain about, just to make sure that we understand all the information that's known. We're understanding all the risks, we understand the strategies, and we understand how the money is going to be used. So there's a lot of debate. But the 5 GPs brings a lot of different dynamics to the conversation. And all the 5 GPs are business operators. Although some of them, I don't know if anybody's, I think Rafi's worked in a bank before, but we're operators. So, and I continue to operate my own P&L businesses. But generally speaking, the investment consideration is we want to see a unanimous vote.
What's the pipeline of the incoming, like you said, 500 a month? I guess that's in the US, right? So what would be the pipeline in Asia that you've seen so far?
And so far in Eagle Venture Lab Asia, we have 3 companies that's already been seeded and running. And we've got 2 more coming in. So in Asia already, there's 5 deals that has gone through that scrutiny. And we continue to have people approaching us. I know Tim, Ashwin, myself, we get emails every day. Now, it's not the lack of pipeline opportunity that's the issue. The issue is the scrutiny and the process and the diligence of making sure it's the right opportunity for us as a fund, focusing on the 4 areas of social impact, and that we have exactly the same values as the leader, the CEO, the leadership team that's running the company. A mismatch of values is basically a nightmare. So, yeah. Right now, if we raise 20 million, we have deployment opportunities right away. And the idea here is not just looking at Asia, because sometimes you have to also remember Asia's like, what, 25, 30 different countries. It's very hard to bring scale unless you're in China, like which one deal. So in Southeast Asia, I think there's 11 countries. So we want to be very careful that we're investing in companies that has regional reach. Investing in a company that's good in Singapore in itself is fantastic, but may not have that J curve that we're looking for in a high growth tech startup. So the Asia fund, the fund which is our Eagle Venture Asia VCC fund, can also invest in the US, can also invest in Europe. We're not restricted to Asia. Where our focus is tech-enabled SaaS B2B, high growth. It could be pre-revenue, but usually not. And it should be human trafficking, education, healthcare, and economic empowerment. If we find that match, the chances are we'll do a deep dive.
Yes, you mentioned the Asia Fund VCC will go into the AMC Active Filament Certificate, right?
Yeah.
Even though I'm based in Singapore, can I go invest to AMC right away? But what's the difference there?
The transparent answer is our clients, our investors have already done so. Some have invested through here, some have gone direct. If you have an account with a European bank like Julius Baer, like UBS, we've got a Julius Baer client who's already invested directly, and a UBS client has invested directly through the AMC. But for Singaporean investors, for Asian investors, from Thailand to Indonesia, from Taiwan to Japan, if they want to invest and they don't have an account with UBS, they can invest through our VCC structure. The only difference is the VCC structure is a 7-year fund. Whereas the AMC, if you invest directly, it's an actively managed certificate. That's an evergreen fund. What does it mean? It means there's some liquidity in the evergreen fund, and this is actually a closed fund. Like all venture capital fund, every venture capital fund in Singapore is a closed fund. Cool.
Quick, another question I have is, what is the, obviously this is Eagle Venture Asia, and then there's, Zurich and America. What is the mix of how many portfolio companies are coming from Asia, America, how many are from Europe? And is there a target on how many portfolio companies you're looking at investing in Asia?
So the current out of 36 companies, I would say around 27, 28 are US. It's just because the ecosystem generates so much new ideas. Facebook, Google, Apple, Airbnb, Uber, all started in the US, right? So that's that. But we have some really exciting portfolio companies in Europe. One of them is Weiss Medicine, which is an integrative medicine clinic. Very exciting. They've got 3 clinics there. In Asia, we don't have any specific numbers. We have people that's approached us already. I've personally seen about 7 or 8 companies in the last 2 months. Actually, yeah, more than that. Actually, about 10 companies in the last 2-3 months. Some of them are worthy to be going through this whole process that we have. We don't have any specific number. We just want to be very careful how we deploy the LP's cash. But yeah, we don't want to hold on to your money as well. We want to put the money to work. So typically, we have an investment committee meeting every month or every 2 months whenever we have money to deploy.
If I just wanted to look at Asian deals, is that possible?
That is possible. Here's what I have done, and what I've told our future investors. Invest in us first. And we are very open for you to co-invest. So we've got some deals, let's say Mr. Company A and Company B. One is in US and one is in Singapore. As our LPs, limited partners, we would love to invite you to co-invest directly in these companies as well. Yeah. But we've done all the heavy lifting and the hard work. We don't want to hold you back by saying, no, you cannot invest in anything directly. But we really would like to encourage our investors to first put money in with us so they can be a part of the process and learn our methodologies and be comfortable with it and participate in that. But at this moment, the Eagle Venture Fund Asia VCC is not an Asia-specific fund. Just having said that, the US fund can also invest in Asia, and so can the Global Impact Fund based out of Zurich. Yeah, we're not geographic restricted. We're rather restricting ourselves to the 4 areas of impact and the stage of the company. So if you're a pre-IPO opportunity right now, that probably would not fit into our mandate.
Thanks for sharing.
Good questions. Very good questions. All right, I think that's it. That's 40.